A new year means the holidays are over, kids are going back to school, and people are going back to work. Luckily, the new year also means we have another winter season of anime to enjoy, and hopefully distract us from the blizzards that are for some reason happening in March. This season had a lot to live up to considering last winter's stacked lineup, but I think this season came pretty close with a massive range of great shows. You want shonen? We got you. You want shows with great animation? We got you. You want slice of life? We got you. You want isekai fantasy? We got you. With continuing shows like Attack on Titan and Tagagi-san, and some new big hitters like the now incredibly famous My Dress-Up Darling, this season was definitely really front heavy. But I think there are some shows that may have gone under the radar for most people, or just didn't get enough attention because of course they aren't with Attack on Titan happening. This is a new series I want to start where I'll just go over my favorite anime of the season, or ones I think should just get more attention, giving my general thoughts and a brief plot summary, and it'll be mostly spoiler free. And I want to do this at the end of the season because as we learned last winter, sometimes shows start out good and then fall off a cliff. I'm gonna save my personal favorite anime from this season till the end, though other than that, they're mostly in no specific order. I also want to quickly mention there are two anime that I can almost certainly say would be on this list, but aren't because I haven't watched them yet, and those are Princess Connect Redive Season 2 because I really like Season 1, and Slow Loop. The first episode gave me really big laid-back camp vibes, which is my favorite anime. So if you like Konosuba in action, I suggest Princess Connect. If you like laid-back camp and fishing, I suggest Slow Loop. But without further ado, let's start off with possibly the most hype anime of this season, Demon Slayer Season 2. I honestly don't associate the Mugen Train arc with this, so this is gonna purely focus on the Entertainment District arc. And let's not beat around the bush here, this was the most hype anime this season. Ufotable came back down from the heavens and bestowed this pure hype machine upon us. Looking story-wise, not that much really happened in terms of progressing our characters or the story, but honestly, it really doesn't matter. The animation is golden. Seriously, every time I think Ufotable is peaked, they somehow go even further beyond that. I mean, there was literally a scene where they pretty much added like a minute of their own scenes that just aren't in the manga at all, and it looked fucking amazing. Everyone trashes on the story, and while it's no secret it's not a masterpiece, it's simple and does its job not to diminish what Ufotable is doing. No other series has this level of hype right now, even outside of the anime community. With its combination of god-tier animation and a great OST, it makes for something you'll constantly be on edge with. It also has an opening that surprised me at how good it was. In my opinion, it's pretty close to the first one. Overall, there's not too much to say that isn't just praise for the animation, and even with just that, it blows so many other shows out of the water. Not just this season, but in general, because of how high quality the show is. You don't need to be ashamed that Demon Slayer's story isn't the greatest, because this level of animation is something most other shows will never have. Moving on, we have a fairly underground show that I'm sure a lot of you have never heard of called Attack on Titan. Now, obviously, Attack on Titan needs no introduction as it goes into part 2 of its final season. Wait, what do you mean it's not done? It's called the final season. How is it not done? Even though I've read the manga, I still recommend watching this if you have or haven't. MAPPA is definitely getting better with the animation, and seeing everything animated just hits different. They paced it really well, and of course the story is top tier. Continue to not only divide the characters, but the fans as well, with the sides of good and bad continuing to get grayer and grayer. And I gotta say, in terms of impactful scenes, emotionally and story-wise, this season had a ton. Attack on Titan continues to be one of the best crafted stories, and one of the most influential anime in terms of reaching to the general public. It's hard not to appreciate it. It goes without saying, you should maybe be watching Attack on Titan. Never mind, go watch this right now. No, what? No. My Dress-Up Darling, which has taken most of the internet by storm, is about Gojo, a high school boy who loves to paint Hina dolls, and his friendship with future Crunchyroll Award winner for Best Girl, Maureen Kitagawa, as they team up to make and do cosplay. Now, My Dress-Up Darling was a semi-popular manga that even I read beforehand, and even I didn't expect this level of popularity to come out of it. The story has a nice and fun hook of cosplay, even to the point of being educational, on not only cosplay, but on sewing as well. But undoubtedly, in this season of great animation, this is a show that's near the top. Cloverworks really knocked it out of the park with this one. Almost like they're trying to apologize for something. Anyways, this show is really beautiful, including doing one of my favorite things, adding a shit ton of frames and detail to a scene for no apparent reason. Like, the end of episode 8 is literally stunning visually. Not even to mention that the show legit created like a completely different anime with a different animation style within the show for the sake of having characters to cosplay. They literally pulled out the 90s style animation here. Of course, the show has some certain aspects that I'm sure really influenced its popularity, but the story is also pretty realistic for a slice of life romance, especially with how it deals with its characters, and has a pretty nice underlying message of following your dreams despite what people think or say, putting a big emphasis on breaking gender norms. The comedy is also pretty solid, even if it relies a lot on horny comedy. Anyways, in the end, Marine Best Girl, moving on. We can now cleanse our brain from this using the extreme wholesomeness of teasing master Takagi-san.
高木さんに会いたかったから。
The pinnacle of wholesome shows receives its 3rd season and is also expected to be its last, with a movie coming out on July 10th. This season is more of what you'd expect from the first 2 seasons. Just a really nice relaxing anime about our boy Nishikata being unable to outsmart the Chad Takagi-san in his quest to get her to stop teasing him. There isn't really much to say here because of that. It's a really consistent show. Takagi-san is actually the anime that originally got me open to the idea of slice of life and romance. The comedy's pretty solid and it's got some heartwarming moments for our cold dead souls. And sometimes you just need these types of shows every once in a while to de-stress. And that's exactly what it does for me. In a season that had a decent amount of isekai fantasy, I actually only watched 4 of them. One of them being RWBY from Commonplace to World's Strongest Season 2. I'm gonna be completely honest here, this is just a modified power fantasy. The story is meh at best, but man, if you just want to watch a main character not give a single fuck, I recommend you watch this show. RWBY is like if you gave Subaru a gun and he only cared about Amelia. Like seriously, all these isekai betas can barely hold hands with their main love interest, while here in RWBY, they're doing other things. Nagumo is possibly one of the coolest main characters I've ever seen. It's really fun to see them break the trope of the always nice guy, to see a main character just shoot everything in his way and not care about anything he doesn't hold dear. And while sometimes this makes it feel like Deus Ex Machina, it's really fun to just see him pull out a minigun and mow everyone down, or 1v1 a literal angel. It's dumb fun to just turn your brain off and watch. Leveling up from dumb fun isekai is this season's random shonen. You know the ones where you'll just see people that either love it or hate it? Yeah, those ones. And this season's is Rust Eater Bisco. I originally started this show probably for the same reason a lot of people did, and it's this scene from the trailer. Bisco is a very weird show. It has some aspects that I find really intriguing and cool, yet it also seems to hold itself back with a lot of plot armor and bad pacing and a lack of explanation. It had potential, but in my opinion suffered from a lack of development. Rust Eater Bisco is set in a post-apocalyptic world in which rust, spread through the spores of mushrooms, is turning things and people into rust. This caused the downfall of Japan, and the survivors are being kept in small cities. Our plot kicks off with the doctor finding himself in a predicament with the legendary man-eating mushroom keeper, Akaboshi Bisco. In its basic form, the idea is extremely unique along with its world building, and it really plays into that wackiness of their world. They got stuff like flying snail planes, these rhino gunner things, and this boxer monkey. However, in practice, they didn't really utilize this atmosphere really well, and the fight scenes feel a bit uneventful. I will say, I did really like the characters and their relationships. I wish Toshi was with the 2 main characters a bit more because I really liked the dynamic the 3 had, but even just Bisco and Panda were really cool, though the pacing near the end kinda got wonky and ruined it for me. Also, I really liked the main villain. Kurokawa seemed really menacing, and his voice actor was really amazing. His motivation and stuff was really unclear, but I still loved that vibe he gave off. Overall, it's an okay show if you just want a shonen with a unique concept. Hey, do you like politics? Neither do I, but how the realist hero rebuilt the kingdom makes it strangely alluring to watch. With season 1 of this anime airing back in the summer season of last year, it was pretty nice to see it back so soon, as I really enjoyed it. It put a really nice twist on the isekai genre where it isn't about battling, but rather solving all the kingdom's problems from behind a desk. Seriously, this guy doesn't even pick up a sword for the first time until like halfway through season 2. The show combines fantasy and real-world history and politics in order to be pretty interesting while solving civil wars, food shortages, and a lot of other political events, while also managing to be fun at times. If you're bored of the classic isekai formula, I highly recommend this anime if you find anything of what I just said interesting. This season also had a new anime air called The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt, which has almost the exact same concept as Realist Hero, with the king of Natra falling ill, leaving the poor country to his son, the prince. However, he'd definitely rather not be running a country, so he plans to raise the kingdom's value and sell it. Now, you might be thinking, but Nick, if this is the same show, then why would I watch it over the— Shut up, let me explain. While this anime does also focus on politics, instead of being realistic, it's a lot more wacky while also choosing the right times to get serious. Compared to Realist Hero, it was a lot more fun to watch as it still kept me intrigued and didn't make me use my brain as hard. However, that comes at a sacrifice of while it's a lot more cool and entertaining of a plot, it's a lot more outlandish, with most of the problems consisting of Wen being momentarily thrown off guard and then quickly coming up with another plan to save the day. However, this more lighthearted style suits it a lot more, as it's alluring to see his enemies' reactions, while Realist Hero's allure comes more from the process and more specifically how Soma solves his problems. Both shows come from the same roots, but who they're pandering to are pretty different. Both are amazing, and while I had a lot more fun watching The Genius Prince, I found Realist Hero to be a lot more intriguing, so take that as you will. Now, I actually thought this next anime would be my favorite of the season, but I ended up catching up on something that took the cake. So before we get to that, let's talk about said runner-up, because I still believe it is one of the best anime this season, and does not get nearly enough attention. That being Akiba's sailor uniform, which became known early on in the season as something I don't think it really is. Well, kinda. So, remember how when I was talking about Attack on Titan and Vivi, and I said that someone in Studio Wit must have had an eye fetish because they animate a lot of eyes with really high quality? Well, if that holds true, then someone on Cloverworks really likes feet. However, if you can ignore all of that, you'll find one of the most beautifully animated shows this season. If My Dress Up Darling didn't convince you Cloverworks is sorry, this surely should. The quality of this animation is seriously insane, like movie level every episode. Akiba's sailor uniform revolves around Akiba getting into a prestigious school and wearing her sailor uniform, while trying to make friends. Very simple slice of life stuff. After the first few episodes mainly focus on that, it shifts into choosing a different theme and character each episode to revolve around. The story is by no means good or bad, but it has a strange ability to connect through its characters and how they feel. And the level of animation makes it so much better when they focus on certain stuff. For example, and to quickly nerd out for a second, I'm a guitar player, and episode 7 focuses on a person trying to learn guitar for Akiba, but struggles to when comparing herself to others and their ability to motivate themselves to do something that they may not be too good at. Something that spoke a lot to me personally. And while the story isn't outstanding, it does its job not to distract from the animation. And it's seriously amazing. I've never seen a guitar animated this well in any type of animation. Like, I can seriously look at these scenes and identify every single chord she's playing and probably learn it myself. And occasionally it'll pull off these art style changes that are so beautiful and they pull it off so seamlessly. It's amazing, seriously. I cannot praise this animation enough. And going back to the music, its OST is a pretty underrated aspect of the show. It rarely stands out, but when put in focus, I found it adding so much to the scenes, even to the point of bringing up some feels in me. But again, the true hook of the show is the amazingly outlandish good animation. It just needs to not focus so much on feet.
この時を
「 My favorite anime this season was 86 Part 2 without a doubt in my mind. To quickly set the scene, I saw a bunch of stuff on my Twitter timeline about it ending, so I decided to pick up where I left off back in spring of last year when I started watching Part 1. I got near the end of it, but due to a few things, I ended up dropping it for Vivi even though I thought it was pretty good. And continuing it now, I had the unfortunate realization that I had stopped watching right when the show went above and beyond. I finished those amazing last 2 episodes in Part 1 and moved on to Part 2 with very high expectations. Luckily, it had just finished airing and I could binge it, and even with my very high expectations, Part 2 blew those out of the water. And just, if you have not watched this show, go watch it now. Although I'm not going to directly spoil it, several of the things I will say have some implied spoilers. I'm just gonna straight out say it, I love 86, and it quickly became one of my favorite shows, and Part 2 did a great job skyrocketing it even further up into my rankings. 86 is an amazing story that puts all its main focus on its characters and executes it to perfection. I could probably make an entirely separate video on just Shin and Lena, plus the themes of war, segregation, and societal reintegration make it all the more better. Even though the cast is narrowed down a lot more in Part 2, it allows for that ever-coming feeling of the dread of death to become a lot more gripping as our connection gets stronger to the characters that are still around. And Part 2 proves that it's still not afraid to kill characters and show us the brutality of war. The animation is just as solid in this part as it was before, if not a bit better in my opinion. The machines move a lot smoother and look less clunky, and we get a look at some more weapons in this season, making combat a lot more interesting. And some of the scenes in this season were just simply amazing to look at. Like, dude, the ending episode, this isn't even on the script. Unironically, that is one of the best scenes I've ever seen. It has a lot of underlying implied themes that I could go on and on about, not only in its animation, but also with the characters and what they say as well. And the soundtrack is so damn good. Sawano Hiroyuki is an absolute genius. All the songs have such an amazing amount of impact on the scenes, it's actually crazy. And the opening and the ending are nothing to scoff at either. This part was a masterpiece in my opinion, bringing everything from Part 1 full circle and setting up the future of the series. I'm not ashamed to say, I 100% cried at the end of that last episode. I seriously cannot recommend this show more, and it probably would have given Vivi a way better run for its money in my last video had I watched it back then. This season was full of huge heavy hitters and great underrated shows, some of which I didn't even mention. It was a great setup for the rest of this year and next season, which is undoubtedly stacked. Shield Hero Season 2, Love is War Season 3, Komi-san Season 2, a few hyped up new ones like Shikamori's Not Just a Cutie, and Spy X Family, along with a ton of other intriguing ones. This season had a lot you could argue about. 86 and Attack on Titan for Best Story, Akibi and My Dress Up Darling for Best Animation, Realist Hero and Arifueta for Best Isekai. Whatever category this belongs in. But of course, undoubtedly, Marin will go uncontested for Best Girl of this season. However, for Best Girl of the Year, well, yeah, I think the jury's still out on that one.
おやすみ。またね。
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I also wanted to thank you all for the recent support on the channel, specifically on the one-shot vid. I know I format this channel very weird, but it's because I really don't want to burn myself out like I have in the past. So I'm just going to make content on what I like and what I want to do. So expect a combination of video essays like the one-shot one, anime stuff like this one, and then some random videos maybe, like on anime, and then a flyers video once a year. This year's video is going to be tough to make. Along with some other stuff, whatever I want to make. I'm planning on doing my next video essay on Outer Wilds, and I've decided on the topics, but I need to do some more research, so give me some time on that. I also want to make a video on RWBY, because boy, do I have some things to say about that show, especially since it's getting an anime adaptation. But for now, that's all I gotta say. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know your favorite anime from this season, and I hope you have a dandy rest of your day.